I think we were sort of slightly out of our mind to do our gala 5 days after one of the biggest Earth Days we'd ever had. So whatever goes wrong, it's not my fault. I want to thank the Mayflower and, of course, the staff who are helping us tonight. Thank you all. You're awesome to serve us in such a great manner. And this is the long thank you part, but I especially want to thank the staff of Earth Day. I am happy to say that pretty much everybody in this room who's in management knows how much fun HR is. But I'm happy to say tonight that Earth Day colleagues are simply the best on the planet. Those that are here and those around the world, and we have many more staff around the world, are smart, diligent, thoughtful, committed, and super nice. So I want to start the evening by thanking the incredible people at Earth Day who are working their rear ends off to make our collective lives better. Earth Day is super lucky to have an amazing board, and some of them are here tonight. I want to thank them. Justin Kamen, Gerald Torres, our chair, who other than Dennis is the best boss I've ever had. Lydia Camarillo, Michael Simkin, I don't know where you are, but his Down to Earth series was just hot off the press, nominated for 4 Emmys, so we're really excited for him. Jim Leitner, Dorsita Taylor, Lisa Van Susteren, and a former board member, Nora Pouillon, who, as we all know, is a Washington institution. So thank you, Nora, for coming. I want to recognize our sponsors, Space Perspective and Make It Cute. As Space Perspective knows, I'm super obsessed with space travel, and I want to go up in their balloon. My son wrote his college essay. It was called Space Mom, and he said he learned what a 401k was because my husband and I were fighting about whether I could spend it to go on a different off the Earth planet. But so I'm super excited to have you. It's been great meeting the people there. And I also want to thank Make It Cute, Amanda, and her girls, as she calls them, for sponsoring tonight's evening. And thank you to our donors, NRG Energy, Serendipity Foundation, Jim Leitner, for their help bringing STEM students to the gala from the Latin American Youth Center Conservation and River Corps. So thank you very much, all the STEM students. I also want to recognize our friends with us tonight, including Ecuador's ambassador to the United States, Yvonne Baki. Many of you have known her for years. She is responsible for, among others, but really responsible for creating one of the most important marine reserves in the world that will link Ecuador's Galapagos Islands with Panama and Colombia and other countries and may end up protecting 40% of the world's marine species. I imagine that her achievement will last 1,000 years and is a model for multi-state cooperation and conservation. She is beyond awesome. I think she's here. And I'd also like to recognize Anton Skiller, second secretary from the Embassy of Ukraine. Earth Day has a very long history in Ukraine. We created the first major environmental rally after the Orange Revolution. We were in Kyiv, in the square, with 100,000 people in a snowstorm, 10,000 Chernobyl victims, and it was one of the most amazing events of my life. And we've stayed in touch with them and helped build up and helped really build the environmental community there. Most recently, we've been documenting environmental crimes that are now raging across that country. Also with us are members of the Chinese Embassy, Councillor Wang and Dr. Yang, whose openness and interest in growing Earth Day in China and working on other environmental issues, including climate education, has been very gratifying. And welcome to Congresswoman Teresa Ledger Fernandez from New Mexico's 3rd District, Michigan's Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, White House staff who have given the people of the U.S. a great jump start on growing the greenest economy in the world and providing support for innovation, invention, and rebuilding our infrastructure and creating green jobs in every single state. And finally, Reverend Yearwood, who leads the Hip Hop Caucus and who is a total champion for climate and social justice and someone who I'm very proud to call my friend. And so thank you, and everyone here who works so hard to solve climate change, to save biodiversity, to end the scourge of plastics, and who focus on the marginalized and vulnerable. We should really give a round of applause to ourselves because I think we're all awesome. I am really thrilled to introduce our special guest, Amanda Seyfried. She's an award-winning actress and co-founder of the sustainable brand Make It Cute. Amanda has starred in countless noteworthy screen and stage performances over her 20 years in her career. And none of us will forget Amanda's role in Mean Girls and, of course, in Mamma Mia, which I have watched pathetically countless times just to see her because, for me, she was the biggest star of that film. And she was equally amazing in Cosette in the film version of Les Mis. Amanda received both an Academy Award and Golden Globe nominations for her portrayal of Marion Davies in the critically acclaimed film Mank. She won a Golden Globe and Emmy for her portrayal of Elizabeth Holmes in The Dropout, and she has received so many awards. Time named her one of the 100 most influential people in the world last year. She has so many fans in the world, and she has a lot in this room. She's an avid supporter of animals. I discovered that she has countless mini horses and maybe donkeys and all sorts of stuff running around her house. And big news, she has successfully toilet trained her 2-year-old son, I understand, so congratulations on that too. She is a supporter of Best Friends Animal Society, and with her husband, the International Network for Aid, Relief, and Assistance, an organization that provides access to medical assistance for children impacted by war. I understand she loves to knit, something I also tried over and over again, but never mastered or finished even a very long scarf that I started. In a call I had with Amanda before today, she was kind enough to suggest that I bring my 18-foot scarf here and she would help me finish it off, but really she was intimating maybe it was time for me to move on in my life. Amanda is a serious and talented actor and a serious, dedicated green entrepreneur, and she has used the almost 3 years of downtime to reinvent the indoor playhouse with her 2 best friends, who again she calls her girls, which I'm dying to be in that club. Her company, Make It Cute, is dedicated to creating sustainable products, and every single one is made using sustainable materials. I had the opportunity to talk to her before tonight, and I am not kidding, she is just as nice as you can imagine. And I was really gratified to learn how committed she is to making an impact with her company and changing the way all of us look at products that we buy. And on top of those awards, entrepreneurial talents and everything else that make up Amanda, a large component of her brand is to give back. For every playhouse sold, Make It Cute will plant 1 tree in an area of the world most in need of reforestation through a partnership with EarthDay.org's planting initiative, the Canopy Project, and we are grateful for her support. So please join me in welcoming an awesome person, Amanda Seyfried.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's called binding off when you finish. No, it's all right. I'll teach ya. We got some time. You just have to come upstate. Good evening. I'm super proud to be here among so many people with incredible ideas about how to lessen our environmental impact and create an economic model that respects and honors our place within the environment, not outside of it. I am here tonight as a mom and a wife and a global citizen, and I'm here because my girlfriends Anne and Maureen from childhood and I saw a problem that we wanted to tackle, not just from the perspective of a parent, but also as stewards of our environment. As moms, we saw our kids want spaces to play and toys that were fun but expensive and made from non-recyclable products, and they left chaos in their wake, or they wanted to play with the boxes and build forts out of them. And this was especially true during the pandemic, when boxes and toys and boxes that delivered toys collected in our homes and then were tossed into the recycling bin. So one of us, my friend Anne over there in the pink and black dress, who's videotaping. She had this idea. She took this refrigerator box. She had just gotten a new refrigerator. And instead of throwing it away, she grabbed some glue and paint and scissors, and she made this super chic Cape Cod cottage playhouse for her kids that was so durable that it's withstood not one, but two toddlers. It still stands today. She can never get rid of it. And we were like, that's such an opportunity. We have an opportunity here. We wanted to do something. It was the pandemic. So we thought we would take the old tried and true cardboard box and make it into a kingdom, not just for our kids, but for us. Because these durable, our playhouses, are these durable, recyclable, easy to assemble playhouses made from recycled materials. They look cute as hell. They're a blast for our kids, and they're beautiful in our homes, and they're good for the environment as well. So everybody wins, right? And so I'm here tonight because the future of our world, our globe, our environment, will be determined by whether we, in this moment, do all we can to save it. Whoever we are, wherever we are, we can tackle problems, large and small, in this moment, in a way that will support and create tools and innovations to make our world sustainable for us, for our kids' kids, and that's the world that we have to fight for together. And we don't have to do it alone. I'm also here to tell you about an organization that Make It Cute partners with, as Kathleen said, EarthDay.org's reforestation campaign known as the Canopy Project. Despite the challenge of working in some of the poorest, most climate vulnerable and environmentally degraded communities around the globe, as well as in underserved at-risk areas here in the US, the Canopy Project has planted tens of millions of trees on nearly every continent. Reforestation is one of the most important natural, nature-based solutions that we currently have to help address the climate crisis. This is important for all of us here, and especially for our future generations. The Canopy Project is having a positive impact on lives and livelihoods, providing healthy food, generating income streams, and protecting local waters and biodiversity. I also love the Canopy Project because empowering women is a priority for the campaign. In Morocco, EarthDay.org joined together with its local partner, the High Atlas Foundation, to plant 42,000 almond, carob, walnut, pomegranate, fig, and olive trees. At the same time, the project delivered groundbreaking empowerment training for 75 local women community leaders. This female-led transformative experience provided participants with the advocacy skills to create a more open and inclusive society. But that's not all. The Morocco Project also supports 3 nurseries around the country where the saplings are grown. The income generated from these nurseries is critically important to helping local farming families. In the Sundarbans of India, the world's largest mangrove forest, EarthDay.org and its local partner, Sustainable Green Initiative, are planting 2 million trees, helping to protect biodiversity, improve the fishing economy, and promote climate resilience. The Sundarbans is home to the Royal Bengal tiger, Ganges dolphin, and estuarine crocodiles. I don't know what kind of crocodiles they are. Estuarine crocodiles. I just will never pronounce that right, but they're pretty cool. And we need to help them. EarthDay.org is also working with marginalized farmers in India, providing them with 15,000 fruit trees, lime, mango, guava, to help improve their profit selling to local markets. Around the world in Brazil, EarthDay.org, together with the Golden Lion Tamarin Association, is working to save these tiny endangered monkeys, which are found only in the Atlantic coastal forests, by restoring and connecting the unique habitat required to support these amazing creatures. So tonight you can help us bring the Canopy Project to more communities here and abroad. On your table you'll find a bookmark with the little Canopy Project QR code that allows you to support the Canopy Project. Every contribution is very greatly appreciated. So thank you for letting me speak. Thank you for having me here. It's so momentous for our little company, and just in the grand scheme of things, we're just really grateful. I hope you will be inspired by tonight's amazing speakers and incredible award winners. So have a good time. I'll be over there. Thanks.
Thank you, Amanda. Like most of us, Earth Day is now re-emerging after 3 years of COVID, and this year our impact was extraordinary. Literally thousands of large and small businesses, elected officials, faith groups, and millions of people took up Earth Day's theme, Invest in Our Planet, all of them expressing the hopeful side of climate. Yes, there were protests around the world, petition drives, government's commitment to end single-use plastics, to replant forests, to expand reserves and protected areas of the world. But more important, in a world that sometimes feels that we're devolving into chaos, what we are hearing is some of the most hopeful language and conversations, and around Earth Day have been very hopeful, despite some of the direst news that we've heard on climate as we move through the climate crisis. The power of Earth Day, that event that was born on April 22nd, 1970, which had 20 million Americans, which remains the largest civic event in human history to date. It grows every year. Thanks. When Dennis Hayes, who you'll hear from in a little while, he's out in California, when he hired me, it took him 6 months of interviews. It was really getting old. He was unsure if a former law firm attorney and co-manager of the litigation practice at National Audubon, a person who genuinely liked suing the US government and world governments, could I transition to what Earth Day had become under his leadership? A vast network of NGOs, mayors, hundreds of thousands of teachers, millions of students, a big tent, a movement-building organization. So when I was first hired, I thought I'd bring those lawyering skills to Earth Day, and soon we would be litigating and occupying the space in the already crowded landscape of regulatory and policy lawyers who grace our fair city. And while we occasionally jump into litigation, most recently to protect wolves, I have come full circle. Our mission, which we changed when I got there, is to diversify, educate, and activate the environmental movement worldwide. And it is unique in our global community, as we are dedicated to what we call everybody else. Everyone who isn't already green, because if we admit it to ourselves, that's really the problem we face. We lack the engagement by billions of people who are just trying to live their already difficult lives. And of course, we work year-round on reforestation, solving the climate and plastics crisis, and the plastics treaty, fast fashion, voter registration and turnout, and climate education. And with respect to climate education, sadly, until recently, most of the world has treated education as an afterthought. Around the world, education budgets are the lowest in each country. The Global South receives less than 4% of its money for education from outside their country, and poor students in communities across the US, like the rest of the world, in the most advanced country in the world, face degraded schools. Many, we visited them with no heat, no air conditioning. It's a terrible situation, lack of basic resources, and unlike the great schools around here, no PTAs to make up the shortfall. In the age of climate change, and with a few notable exceptions, our education system is failing our students. And even more profoundly, by refusing to provide even basic information about climate change and preparing our children for what will inevitably face them. And it's really odd, in my view, because the Department of Education currently has 4,000 employees, a $90 billion budget, and maybe 3 people that know anything about climate change. What are we thinking? But if I know one thing from working at Earth Day, it is that if we want to solve climate change, biodiversity loss, and other challenges, we need to give our students the information and, more important, the skills that they'll need. And this translates into 2 forms: truth and hope. Regarding the first, truth, of course we need to tell our students the truth about climate change. Explain the science, the risks, and likely what the future holds if we don't stop it. But science is just the first step. Regarding hope, it is the single most important thing we can give our students, and not for the reasons which will spring to mind. Yes, we know our kids, and there are over 3 billion of them under 25 years old, are the most stressed and pessimistic in decades, maybe even in history. Part of that despair, as we all know, is climate change. The kind of hope I'm talking about here is not at all about the likelihood of survival. That is not hope. The hope that we want to give our students through education and civic skill building at all levels is to deliberately and urgently convince them that they can solve the climate crisis through ingenuity, invention, innovation, and entrepreneurism. And we want to start it young, teaching them climate critical thinking skills all the way from kindergarten to high school graduation, college, trade schools, and beyond. And as Einstein said, education is not about learning the facts. It's about training the mind to think. Climate change promises to upend everything, but also give us a chance to redesign and rebuild the world in a very different way. In short, climate change is also about engagement and economic opportunity, which sort of brings us back to the Earth Day Invest in Our Planet. But that will only happen if we teach our students to develop the skills, the ingenuity to rethink the way things are. And it doesn't have to take a generation to do it. In 4 years, we could graduate hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of students who see climate change in a very different way. A way to take charge, to invent, to innovate, provide a pipeline to good jobs that are also about solving the problems that face our planet, and we need to instill hope. The truth, yes, we must educate our students about the dire predicament that we face. But hope, that's the answer. Teaching our kids to dream big, think big, and challenge preconceived notions and the status quo. And I get to the first award winner of the night. Our national and global work on climate literacy has been made possible by the benevolence, farsightedness, and inspiration of one incredible man, Sam Rose. Wait, I'm not finished. Sam is a self-made man, the kind of person who just decided that he needed to be educated despite having no support from his family. Rejected from Dickinson College, he was not deterred. A man of action, Sam drove to Dickinson, literally, and made his case, and it worked. He received a full scholarship, graduated, helped his lacrosse team win a national title, and then went to law school at University of Baltimore School of Law. Sam always says, he's just lucky. But I would not call it luck. I would call it determination. The same determination that helped him succeed in the competitive world of real estate, including many buildings in Washington, D.C. His insistence that it was just about luck is part of the reason Sam has spent years giving back to the causes and people he admires. He is one of the original, and I mean original, believers in the importance of lifting people up who deserve assistance, and his version of giving back was providing undergraduate scholarships in the millions for underrepresented youth and students of color at his college alma mater, and donating funds to University of Baltimore School of Law to address racial disparity and inequity within the criminal justice system.
Good evening, boys and girls. For a guy born in 1936, this looks like an elementary school class. I have a little trouble reading because I usually use a magnifier, but I didn't bring it. Probably there's no one in the room, but old guys like me that are to blame for our problem. Climate change is our gift to you, no charge. We didn't even know we were doing it. Is that dumb? Yes. But it's the nature of the beast. My generation didn't invent climate change, but we caused it. Mankind is selfish. We worry about the same stuff for years. Disease, storms, keeping warm, making money, getting around faster. I don't think the word environment, I heard the word environment until the 1980s. The basic problem was our inability to see the damage we were doing. It's not too late if we take drastic action. This means the world, not just the United States. So Earth Day and others like it are the key. With it, it won't be easy, but that's why we're here. Earth Day and others like Earth Day are the key to a healthy planet. The question for my generation is, do I want to be 18 again? So even though you expect us old guys to want to be young again so we can enjoy good food, even sex, and happy times, It's not available if we don't stop climate change. So my conclusion is, backing Earth Day and other organizations like it is the key to the future for improving the world. Let's hope it's not too late. Thank you.
I was praying he wouldn't say that about you know what, but it didn't work. Honestly, ask anyone. I now welcome to the stage Lydia Camarillo, who is the head of Southwest Voter Registration Education Project. She's a board member, an extraordinary woman who I've known for many, many years. When I first met Lydia, her former boss, and I and the NAACP created a joint program called Campaign for Communities. It was many, many Latino groups, Lydia and Greg Moore from the NAACP. It's called, the call to action was to register voters, and we registered millions together. But our goal was not just to register and turn out voters, to parachute in and out, but to stick with those communities. And Lydia and all of our cohorts in that community, and we really were the first, have stayed incredibly good friends, and we've watched Southwest Voter just get bigger and bigger. And Lydia, thank you. It's all due to you.
Thank you, Kathleen, for that extraordinary warm welcome. Having grown up as a first-generation U.S. citizen in Oakland, California, a historically marginalized community on the front lines of the climate crisis, Marlene Garcia brings a unique and fresh voice to youth climate movement. Now, a student at UC Davis, Marlene learned about the climate crisis and environmental injustice when she first left home for college. Marlene is a founder of Youth versus the Apocalypse, sorry, my accent, a diverse group of young climate justice activists working together to lift youth voices, in particular youth of color and working class youth, and serves as a community education coordinator. Upon taking the reins as executive director of Earth Uprising, Marlene became the youngest managing director of a youth-led climate organization. As the law and policy director, she prepared 24 youth from around the world for advocacy policy at the COP27. In her current role, she leads several campaigns, one that focuses on financial pathways for reparation in the global South, and another called Seat at the Table, in a youth-led campaign providing pathways, support, access, and commitment for youth-led representation in major decisions-making spaces. Marlene is also a leader in the divestment movement, a public speaker, and writes opinion pieces. She has worked as a labor organizer, recently participating in organizing the largest University of California worker strike in history. During that action, she spoke about how labor and climate are intertwining and was selected the chosen one to meet with the regents of the University of California on labor and climate. In recognition of her work, educating and mobilizing her peers in the US and abroad, and others to advocate for climate justice, as well as her personal efforts as a spokesperson and activist promoting a healthy environment for everyone in an equal and just way, we are honored to present Marlene Garcia with the Youth Climate Leadership Award. Marlene?
Okay, hi everyone. I'm gonna try not to cry. This is new to me. Thank you, Earth Day, for this recognition. I wanna dedicate this award to my amazing support system that are my mentors, my community, my friends, and of course, my family. They're not here today, but Ama, Apa, hermanitos, los amo mucho. As a marginalized environmental youth activist on the front lines, we need all the support we can get. This is because we marginalized youth activists are fighting the devastating impacts of climate change while also addressing the systemic inequalities and injustices that are happening at the intersections of this climate crisis. Me specifically, I'm fighting so many battles: food poverty, financial stress, affordable housing, and of course, the education system. There's fights between choosing whether or not I will spend most of my hours working or studying. If I choose school, then that means I'd have to cut down on my food and use those last minute or those end savings for rent. Because if I don't have shelter, then I'm not protected from the rising temperatures or the severe storms. But if I choose school, that also means I can't do the work that I'm doing to protect my communities and those that I care about. And if I choose work, well, then I'm kind of risking my grades, which isn't fair because the educational system already wasn't created to support or maybe even welcome low-income BIPOC youth. I'm fighting the education system to teach about environmental justice and climate change. I feel that had I learned about climate change before college, I probably could have done something sooner to save my community. And now it feels like it's too late. I'm fighting to free youth from free labor because because we're youth, our work should be free for the experience. I'm fighting the Western European perspective. I'm fighting the Western European perspective on nature, which not only disconnects human from the non-human world, but also makes us superior to it. Unless, of course, you're a minority. If you're a minority, you're more bound to be treated and even exploited in the same way that other parts of our natural world. I'm fighting the systems that force me into witnessing and experiencing how my communities are treated as disposable by placing fracking sites, oil drills, warehouses, and other environmentally harmful activities near our homes. That explains the migraines, the nosebleeds, the high infant mortality rates, and other effects on our people. I'm fighting the laws that separate and harmed our loved ones. Oh, this one's gonna be hard. The laws that forbid one from accessing healthcare during a time when we need it most, because our well-being is being impacted by climate change and environmental inequalities. I'm fighting anti-immigration laws for my family, who was forced out of their homelands. For my father, who despite being captured by ICE, never gave up on her family. It breaks my heart seeing my mother continue her hard work as a street vendor despite her diagnosis with arthritis. Her hard working and aching hands, working and being present to move my siblings and I forward. I'm fighting the oppressive systems, actively working to erase parts of my identity, like my family's indigenous roots. I'm fighting the systems that want to limit my power as a woman of color. I'm fighting the fear of gun and police violence being a threat to me because of the color of my skin. But regardless of the fear and the risk, we are there, front and center, leading change. I'm almost done. I'm fighting countless battles as a marginalized environmental youth activist. The ones I mentioned, and a lot more. I'm fighting unprotected and with minimal help. From every battle, we come out more resilient. It's the resilience and the resistance that is keeping me and my communities alive. But I have to be honest. I'm tired of being resilient. I'm tired of the resilience being used as an excuse to not give us support. My community and I need and want support, so that one day we no longer live to survive, but we live to live. Right now, we're living to survive. If it's not these systemic forms of inequalities and oppression, because if it's not for these systemic forms of oppression and inequalities that will end us first, climate change will. So please, use your capabilities and your positionalities to contribute to the work that historically marginalized communities are doing for a just and livable future. Thank you.
Isn't she awesome? Let's give her another hand. And now I'm excited to introduce a video by Space Prospect. There goes my accent. Sharing the transformative power of spaceflight, and for the first time ever, carbon neutral. Thank you.
Good evening, my fellow Earthlings. My name is Jane Pointer, and I am founder and co-CEO of Space Perspective. And it is my great honor to be here this evening with you all and to be in partnership with these fantastic people at Earth Day. Let's give them all a round of applause, shall we? Those words that you just heard from astronomer Carl Sagan are really as iconic today as they were when he spoke them in the 90s. He beseeched NASA to turn the Voyager spacecraft around as it was reaching the edge of the solar system, to take that iconic image of our planet from that vantage point. That little tiny pale blue dot that you see there in the context of that enormous ocean of space. We at Space Perspective want to take as many people to space as possible because we want people to have that experience, to see our incredible planet from that vantage point. People that have been, and in one moment you are going to hear from somebody who has been, which I have not yet, so I'm talking from hearsay. People who have been to space really do speak about it with great reverence. And it is for that reason that we want to take people to space in our carbon neutral zero emission spaceship Neptune, which as you saw is not a rocket. We use enormous balloons. It's a very gentle flight. We want to take leaders to space. We want to take artists to space. We want to have teachers go to space. Can you imagine with COP28 coming up how different it would be if we had world leaders who had gone to space and had been truly transformed by that experience of seeing our planet in that context, that thin blue line of our atmosphere. You probably wouldn't have even needed 28 COPs because they'd have come to an agreement last time or 10 years ago. So I would like to take a minute and just introduce astronaut Jeff Hoffman, who is going to say a few words about the actual experience of seeing Earth in space. He is a Hall of Fame astronaut. I'm proud to call him a very old friend. And also, he is a senior technical advisor to us at Space Perspective. I'm sure many of you have seen those incredible images from Hubble Jeff is one of the main reasons that, aside from the people that built Hubble, but he is the reason that we actually get to see images from Hubble, because he did the EVAs that put the glasses on Hubble. And he is an MIT professor, and I could go on and on and on. So, Jeff, please do come up for a minute.
Right, thank you, Jane. So look, I'm not as old as Sam here, but I'm old enough to have been at the very first Earth Day, back around 1970. And then 8 years later, I became one of the first shuttle astronauts, made 5 space flights. So I have seen the Earth from the space perspective. And what's that all about? I mean, astronauts tend to come back and we wax eloquent about the beauties of the Earth, but also the need to take care of it. What's special about that space perspective? When I'm up in a spacecraft looking out the window, and the realization comes that on the other side of the window is a vacuum. Most of the universe is totally hostile to life. And then we look down at the Earth and realize what we owe to this incredible planet, which has given birth to life and sustains life. That's the beautiful part of the space perspective. But the other thing, it has to change the way that we look at some aspects of the Earth. The Earth, many people throughout human history, they think of the Earth as being infinite. The blue sky goes on forever and ever. You can put anything you want into it and it's not going to make any difference. Up in space, you look and you see this tiny, thin blue line and you realize how finite the atmosphere is. And that goes for everything else, the oceans. The oceans seemed, I'm sure, to people throughout history, they were so big, it didn't matter what we did to them. And yet, when you can actually see the curvature of the Earth from space, which you'll be able to see from a high-altitude balloon, you realize, and this is something you know intellectually, but to actually experience it physically is transformational, because you realize the finiteness of the Earth. The Earth is a finite system just like our spacecraft is a finite system. And we don't mess with our environmental control system when we're up there because we know what the consequences will be. And that's the message that we have to get back to people on the Earth. The Earth is finite. It has a limited carrying capacity. It's done an incredible job of healing itself. But I have to tell you, we can now, despite all the beauties of the Earth, we can see the impact that humanity has had on the Earth from a cosmic perspective. And that can be pretty scary sometimes. So I'll just leave you with the way I've started to think about the planet, which is a little different because so often we talk about how we have inherited planet Earth from our ancestors. No, I think the way we have to start thinking about it, we have the Earth on loan from the future generations. When I have something on loan from a friend, I try to return it in better shape than when I borrowed it. We're not doing such a good job with the Earth, but that's the way we have to start thinking about it. It's something we have on loan, and we have to take good care of it to pass it on to our children and grandchildren. So if more people can take part in this space perspective and actually get a visceral understanding of the finiteness of the Earth and the need to protect it, I think that hopefully the Earth will be in a better shape. So that's something for all of us.
Thank you, Jeff. So lastly, Anne Druyan has sent us a message. So Anne was the wife and co-creator with Carl Sagan for many, many years And she very, very generously has given us permission to use this amazing piece that Carl wrote, and she has a message for us all this evening.
Hi, everyone. I'm Annie Drian. I was the creative director of NASA's Voyager Interstellar Message and writer, producer, director of the Cosmos television series. For me, Earth Day is one of the holiest days of the year. And on this particular one, we are called to marshal our intelligence, our energy, and all of our creativity to awaken the widest possible public to the need to protect our gorgeous planet. That's why I'm so excited to be working with Space Perspective and the Earth Day organization to honor the only home we've ever known.
Hi, I'm Dennis Hayes. Back in 1970, when Earth Day started, we were blown away by the size of it. 20 million people participating, literally 1 in 10 Americans, and thought that surely this could get no larger. But in 1990, when we decided to actually live up to the name, not US Environment Day, but rather Earth Day, and took it out to 144 other countries, it became clear that this had the potential to do something really amazing, to unite people from around the world to work in concert for shared values. Today, the big environmental issue, obviously, is climate change, and most of what we hear about climate in the media is very bleak. It's very accurate, but it's also incomplete. So I'd like to balance it tonight with some good news. Coal-fired generating capacity in the United States has been reduced 42% since 2011. Although even most activists don't know it, greenhouse gas emissions in the US peaked in 2007. They've been declining since 2007. Not enough. We need to get to zero, and then we need to get negative. But at least now we have been for a long time moving in the right direction. And emissions have been declining even more in the EU and Japan. Here's a mind-blowing positive fact. Coal combustion in England in 2022 was the lowest that it has been since, wait for it, 1756, before the Industrial Revolution. In the United States, a combination of solar, wind, and batteries are projected to constitute 80% of new utility capacity this year, and solar alone will represent about half of all new capacity. When I got started, solar photovoltaics were too expensive for anything except space satellites. Today, they are the cheapest source of electricity for most of the planet. Worldwide sales of electric vehicles grew 55% last year. And that's off a very small base, but it doesn't take many years of 50% growth to capture a market. Still, the climate crisis is daunting, and we really need the support and energy and leadership of young people. Yet a recent study of 100,000 youth spread over 10 countries in the British medical journal Lancet found that 55% believed that humanity is doomed. That's just terrible news, because if you don't have hope, you don't do anything. Every Earth Day, there's almost a ritual in the news business where a half dozen reporters will ask me whether I'm optimistic or pessimistic. And I'm neither. I mean, those are attitudes toward fate, and fate is simply the result of billions of choices by billions of people, and they can all be persuaded to make different choices. No one should be optimistic or pessimistic, but we all need to be, is really resolute. So thanks to all of you who showed up tonight to help Earth Day continue to carry that message around the planet. This year, there were not only far more people participating in Earth Day outside the United States, there may well have been more people participating just in India than in the United States. And that's all due to the help of folks like you. Thanks.
For those of you who know Dennis, he truly is a remarkable person, and we're really grateful to have him in our lives. I want to introduce Andrew Steer. If you don't know this, I don't know why you wouldn't know this, but Dr. Steer is here tonight, and we're super grateful that you came. And he leads the Bezos Earth Fund, a $10 billion fund formed to address the pressing issues of climate change and nature in this, as he calls it, decisive decade. Dr. Sear previously led the World Resources Institute, an amazing organization. He also served as World Bank Special Envoy for Climate Change, and he has decades of experience leading other international development initiatives. His wife, who couldn't be here, is an avid, brilliant education professional, and we are really glad that you're here, Dr. Steer, and we welcome you to the stage.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Earth Day. For 53 years, you have been reminding us that we need all hands on deck. We love governments, but they're not going to solve the problem. And you were the first to remind us that we need everybody. There are no silver bullets. It is a jigsaw puzzle, and we all need to work together. Thank you for being the first to emphasize education and climate literacy. Thank you for being the first to talk about jobs. And thank you for reminding us that every single day is Earth Day. We are truly grateful, and everyone in this room owes you all a huge debt of gratitude. Well done. And thank you also for reminding us of the biggest mistake we can make on climate change. And the biggest mistake we can make is to assume that the past is a good predictor of the future. And you've reminded us that actually it's a huge mistake to assume that weather patterns will stay the same. It's a huge mistake to assume that livelihoods in poor rural communities will be able to continue the way they have in the past. It's a huge mistake to assume that its city poor dwellers will be able to continue to live where they are, when actually they probably won't. There are really bad negative tipping points out there, and you've reminded us of those, and it's extremely important that we understand that. But here's the point. There are also positive tipping points that we need to understand. Don't listen to those who will tell you, actually, it's going to take us forever. Look at the hydrogen economy. It's going nowhere. Well, actually, the price of electrolyzers has already fallen by 70% of what it needs to fall by before the hydrogen economy becomes totally competitive. You know, 5 years ago, did you know there are 480,000 school buses in this country? 5 years ago, 1 in 1,000 was not a diesel bus. And children are going to school with extremely polluting conditions in the buses. Well, it turns out that still only 1% of buses in this country are electric. But actually, by 2030, every new school bus will be electric. There are hockey sticks out there that we need to understand. Did you know that, 10 years ago, 1 car in 1,000 was electric. But actually by 2025, 1/3 of all cars will be electric, and by 2025, 1/3, and by 2035, internal combustion engines for automobiles and small vehicles will be consigned to the museums. So here's the point. There are amazing positive tipping points out there. Our job is to promote them. And it's a great honor for us at the Bezos Earth Fund to be a partner with you all as we try to understand the transitions that are required. What we do is we monitor 50 transitions that are required this decade and the next. And we ask, where are they and how close are they to those tipping points? And we try to identify what would be the special source that would take them to those tipping points, and then we inject our resources and our convening possibility. So look, here's the challenge that we have. How do we craft a narrative that both honors the disastrous situation today, but also honors the hope and the inspiration? And I want to just pay honor to you, Kathleen, and to Earth Day, because for 53 years, you've informed us, you've edified us, and you've inspired us. And as we head towards COP28 and beyond, we need to have a narrative that is both honest but inspiring. And that's our challenge, I think, this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And just to be clear, I have not been doing it for 53 years myself. Our next award winner is well known for his commitment to saving the planet, one drink and one meal at a time. The world knows him as the co-founder of Honest Tea, which he started in his Bethesda kitchen decades ago with a goal, he said, to democratize organic. He is also board chair of Beyond Meat. More recently, he co-founded Just Iced Tea and Eat the Change, which supports businesses that make foods free of animal products, including a vegan fast food restaurant chain, Planet. He is a global leader in plant-based foods, fair trade, and community give back. Seth Goldman is a serial green entrepreneur on a mission with a deep commitment to saving the planet through sustainable food products. His trailblazing has not just helped his company succeed, but helped change the way we think about food and its impact on our planet. Part missionary, part proselytizer, Seth is committed to help the world move closer to a plant-based diet and changing agriculture and animal production, which alone could be a giant step forward to solving the climate crisis and the biodiversity crisis that we face. Seth's life has been dedicated to supporting innovations that address public health issues as well as climate change simultaneously. He isn't just saving the planet from climate change, he is saving us from ourselves. Seth's philosophy is in perpetual forward motion. Like Earth Day, he believes that climate crisis has elements of danger and opportunity, and that businesses have that obligation to anticipate, evolve, and create solutions. He's driven by knowledge, as he often says, that we aren't going back to the way things were anyway. I always wonder what drives what I call rational optimists and entrepreneurs. There's always a backstory, and Seth has his own. He credits wrestling, the Red Sox, I don't know how you feel about that, and particularly, and this was really interesting, acting, for preparing him to be an entrepreneur. Theater, he says, created willingness to take risks, to be resilient in the face of rejection or failure. The theater taught him the art of selling ideas, concepts, and solutions. It taught him empathy and creativity. His hope, and this is one of my favorite lines I read about him, his hope is that adopting those disciplines, willing to take risk, resiliency, selling concepts, empathy, and creativity, will help us each star in the show that is our own lives. He loves his family. He deeply believes that his wife is the inspiration for everything and gives credit to his 3 sons for encouraging a plant-based lifestyle. But that is quintessential Seth, crediting others and minimizing his own genius and commitment. He isn't finished, of course. He is on a lifetime trajectory to help save our health, to give back to the communities that support plant-based diets and fair trade, and to save us and the whole world a whole lot more carbon. For these reasons, we have named him our winner this year for the Climate Visionary Award. Seth, please join me on stage.
Thank you so much.
Let me just say one more thing. He was actually in the Mikado in middle school, which I think started this whole thing.
That's true. That's true. That's some deep research. Thank you so much. And what an honor it is to be here. Also to be sharing this night with Sam Rose, one of the original Honest Tea investors. Sam, you took a bet. Thank you. Yeah, give him a hand. I was in front of Sam with 5 thermoses and an empty Snapple bottle. And he was willing to say, I think this could be something, and of course there was, and very grateful for that. I am also very grateful to have my wife, Julie Farkas, here. She's been my partner in everything. And speaking of activism, Julie is in the process of setting up a museum to honor the legacy of Rachel Carson, to celebrate all that she did. And when we talk about, yeah, let's give a hand for that. When we talk about activism, Rachel Carson was the original. She is really, in a lot of ways, the founder of this whole movement. And so I'm very honored to be part of this, really what is, we're celebrating activism tonight. And as you might guess by the name of the new enterprise that we created called Eat the Change, it is a call to action, but it's also a call to empowerment and accountability. Because the single biggest act we take every day that has an impact on the environment is what we choose to eat. And so at Eat the Change, everything we make is plant-based, everything we make is organic. We've stressed biodiversity as well. And just let me drill down a little bit on organic as a reason. All those words, insecticide, pesticide, fungicide, they have that root word "cide," which means kill, just the way homicide and suicide is. And those compounds are designed to kill living organisms. And of course they do. And they say it's safe when they're sprayed on crops, but they build up in our ecosystem and they build up in our bodies as well. And everything we can do to move towards organic agriculture is going to be a better step for the planet. Same with plant-based foods. When we know they consume not just 2 times or 3 times, but animal-based foods can demand as many as 100 times the same land, water, and energy to create those crops. And if we're serious about climate change, we have to be serious. We have to think about what we eat in a different way. Not everybody has to be vegan, although there's nothing wrong with that. But everybody has to think about what they eat in a different way. And so it's been really exciting and empowering for me to launch this new enterprise. We were having a lot of fun selling mushroom and carrot snacks when I got a call on May 23rd from the Coca-Cola company telling me they were going to be discontinuing Honest Tea. And it was like, I called it a gut punch. It just took the wind out of my body, all that we had put into building the world's first organic, first fair trade bottled tea, the commitments we had made to communities around the world to not just create economic opportunity, but invest back into their community, to give women a voice in their community about how fair trade proceeds are invested, was something that meant a lot to us. And so after about 10 days of just being sad about Honest Tea going away, and I got an email from one of the tea gardens who said, we would hate to think all that we've invested in fair trade and organic was just a failed experiment. And we said, no, as long as I'm still breathing, it will not be a failed experiment. And so on June 6th, we decided to launch a new brand, which we called Just Iced Tea. By September 6th, we had sold our first bottle. By January 6th, Just Iced Tea had become the top-selling brand of bottled tea in Whole Foods. So thank you. And we're just getting started. So we're so excited about what lies ahead. This is a movement. It has to be a movement, and we all can be part of it. I will encourage, and I thank Earth Day for letting us bring our bottles of tea. This is part of what we do. There's in a custom in Asia, if somebody offers you tea and you decline it, you've insulted them. So I hope you will do the honor of taking our tea either home or drink it now. Share it with friends. I'll just close. So one of the nice treats about the tea, just as we did with Honest Tea, is there's a bottle cap quote under every cap. And I'll share with you 2 of my favorites. The first one is a Chinese proverb that says, if we don't change the direction we are headed, we will end up where we are going. And we all know that's not the right direction. But the one that my wife Julie got under her cap tonight is the one I want to close with. It's another proverb. And it says, those who say it cannot be done should not interrupt the people doing it. And we're all doing it here. Thank you very much. Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
It's my honor tonight to introduce Jackie Patterson, who is the winner of the Women in the Green Economy Leadership Award tonight. Jackie was inspired in her youth by the words of Bob Marley. Get up, stand up. She's taken that admonition and has become a force promoting climate and social justice all of her life. As a Peace Corps volunteer in her father's homeland of Jamaica, she witnessed the coming together of social and environmental issues. The community she lived in was plagued by air and water pollution, and the nearby facilities that caused that pollution ignored the threats they were creating, even when they were brought to their attention. From that experience, the Community Environmental Resource Center was born. It was an agency that addressed environmental justice issues as well as climate change. Hurricane Gilbert had just introduced Jamaica to the devastating impacts of storms for the islands that would become increasingly common. After deciding to pursue studies in public health and community organizing, Jackie's career brought her to some of the most challenging places in Africa, where the natural resource extraction industry combined with HIV and AIDS were ravaging people and the communities that they inhabited. While working at a recovery center in Houston post-Katrina, she saw the vivid intersections between climate change and social justice, and how Katrina made the extreme impact on marginalized communities increasingly visible. As the senior director of the NAACP's Environmental and Justice Program for more than a decade, Jackie championed climate change as a civil right, helping frontline communities build power to bring about systems of change and to ensure that opportunities in the new energy economy were equitably shared. Today, she leads the Chisholm Legacy Project, a project rooted in a just transitions framework which connects Black communities and the Black women on the front lines of advancing system change with the resources to achieve their vision. In recognition of her outstanding commitment and her work empowering women in marginalized communities to create a living economy that integrates regenerative, cooperative, democratic systems, we are honored to present Jackie Patterson with the Women and the Green Economy Leadership Award tonight. Jackie.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I just want to really first give honor to all of the women on whose shoulders I stand with this work and who I really share this award for sure. First was my mom, who came to Chicago through the Great Migration from the Black Belt of Mississippi. Her unconditional love and unrelenting affirmation really formed a foundation for the work that I would do going forward. Also, the person whose work we pay homage to with the Chisholm Legacy Project, Shirley Chisholm, who just unabashedly, who fearlessly championed both gender justice and racial justice at a time when gender justice, well, neither were particularly popular, but she did against all opposition. I want to also give homage to the women who are on the front lines in the work that we do every day. Mama Shu is with Solidarity in Highland Park, Michigan, where DTE, the utility company, cut off the electricity for the community and even took away the street poles for the street lights that the electricity was being conveyed through. But she organized her community to do community-owned solar for their street lights. Leah Penniman and Ife Kilimanjaro, we were just talking about local food and Soul Fire Farms. They model growing our own food and community, plant-based diets, and really exemplifying what it looks like to have sovereignty and to have self-determination and local self-reliance. Monica Lewis-Patrick of We the People of Detroit, pushing back on water privatization, pushing forward on people's water governance for access, for affordability, and for quality water. Phyllis and Jane of Sand Branch, Texas, are fighting for water rights in a former freedmen settlement, a community that hasn't had running water since the mid-'80s, right outside of Dallas, one of the richest cities in the world. Sister Nydia at the Holding Institute provides refuge to women and families coming across the border in Laredo, Texas, after their communities were ravaged by climate change and needing to really seek a place where they can just survive. She's greeted people, versus contrary to our own government, which has greeted people with cages or corralled them on horseback with their reins. Sister Nydia lives the tenets of the sanctuary, the tenets of the words, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses," tenets that our own government defiles with their actions. Warshan Shere, a Kenyan-born Somali poet whose poem set Home teaches us about the reality of immigration with the words, "No one puts their child in a boat unless the water is safer than the land." Dorcita Taylor, who is right here, her work on Green 2.0 and so much more has made it such that people no longer think that I'm the security guard, as what happened when I walked into the Arboretum in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Or people just think that I'm in the wrong room, as what happened when I walked into a luncheon and a woman said to me, "This is the meeting of the National Association of Regulatory Attorneys." To which I said, "Great, I'm in the right place. I'm the keynote speaker for the luncheon." So, sisters like Hindu Umara Ibrahim from Chad and Yershel Rodriguez of Colombia are calling for gender justice globally. Naima Penniman, who's a sister of Leah Penniman, and Alexia Garza, whose spoken words represent the voice of the movement. With such references in the context of the inequities in recovery after Hurricane Sandy, they talked about who is paying the price and who gets paid, who is doing the rebuilding and who are they building for, as they call out the corporatocracy. Erica Vincent, who leads Power Shift Network, which is supports transformational youth leadership, such as that of our own sister here, Marlene Garcia. Darnella Frazier, whose name you might not know, but this was the courageous young sister who, at risk of being attacked herself, filmed the state-sponsored murder of George Floyd, a single act that sparked a global racial awakening. Cara Page, who is leading on healing justice that we who are on the front lines and others need to survive oppressive systems. And I'll wrap with giving homage to Adrienne Hollis, who is here in the room and is on the board of the Chisholm Legacy Project, as well as serving as the VP for Environmental Justice, Climate, and Community Revitalization and Conservation at the National Wildlife Federation. But most importantly, she is my ride or die friend who always shows up, whether it's at this event, and as a fellow introvert, that says a lot, or keeping me awake on the phone when I'm driving one of my harebrained drives in the middle of the night across the countryside. So together these women and so many more represent being the change that we must see in the world, a world where we live in harmony with each other, with Mother Earth, a world that embodies deep democracy, a world that centers radical love. It is on these shoulders, alongside and at the feet of these great women that I stand in proud acceptance of this award. So thank you all.